Good morning and welcome back to Gaming with ADHD, where today we're going to be continuing our deep dive through the Alternity Game Master Guide. I'm your host, Brian, and I'm happy to have you here. This is episode 6, where we're going to be talking about achievements and running the game. So, if you are new here or returning or however it works, basically this series is where I do a read through of a particular game or book. Sometimes in this series I will do it with a co-host. But a few weeks ago I started doing them. I was doing them in the morning, but the last couple of days I have wanted to pass out after work. So hence why I'm doing some afternoon episodes to just kind of keep in that routine. Good morning, Glenn. Good to see you, sir. And so for these I've been doing solo. I almost invited a co-host today, but I figured no, let's keep the routine going for these particular episodes. So sorry about that. Yeah, I'm still waking up, still gunk in the chest. You know how it is in the morning. Anyways, stuff in the eyes, all that kind of stuff. But I do apologize for being a little bit later. I ended up in our group discussion for the game that I am preparing to run. And we're starting to nail some stuff down. So I'm actually kind of excited. It looks like we are going to be running Black Starfall and hopefully Red Star Rise. I think I put those in wrong. Yep, I did. Anyways, so hopefully we're going to do these. These are introductory adventures that were released at the same time as the Player's Handbook and the Game Master's Guide themselves. In fact, they even have a little thing here, free with purchase of the Alternity Player's Handbook or free with the purchase of the Game Master's Guide. So, I'd originally thrown it out to the players, letting them pick. Basically, I copied the synopsis from the back and said, okay, which one sounds most interesting to you? I was trying to be nice and let them kind of have a little bit of input, and then I start reading and find out that Black Star Fall and Red Star Wise are basically like parts 1 and 2, and so they'd essentially already decided on Red Star Rise, but I'm overriding them, and we're gonna do Black Star Fall, and hopefully Red Star Rise as well. So, because essentially we had committed to more or less a one shot. Unfortunately, no one could really commit to a campaign. I don't think I'm ready for running a campaign, so we just said a one shot. But these are pretty small. There's 16 pages, and that's even with like so. We're gonna skip page. Okay, so skip page 1. So we're down to, because that's kind of like just like a little intro section about what the adventure is, and then there's some setting background. So yeah, so essentially we're kind of down to like 8 pages anyways. So yeah, anyway, basically everybody's committed to 1, maybe 2 sessions, and so I'm trying not to abuse their time. I'm trying to not overwhelm myself, and So yeah, there's that. The fun thing is that the wife and I are also going to Ireland on Wednesday. So I might have a stream that morning, but I don't know. um so yeah, so I might have a stream next Wednesday. Haven't got to that point yet. But um then I'll be off for a week. Not streaming anything. I'd probably I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to have videos ready. I might be able to get some shorts up, but we'll see. Anyways, regardless, things are super super busy. I do actually have to do a lot for my second channel, cuz that actually um that actually will need a lot more work, just because of the fact um, that I've got that has a video come out every day, and so I've been trying to get ahead of the game, and now I have to get even farther. Anyways, there's me ranting about what's going on. Let's see. So Monday we should be back doing BattleTech Gothic with Six World. And then next Tuesday night, Kim and I will be back doing part 2 of Batman, and then we'll have to take a week off of Batman because we will be in Ireland. And it'll be midnight. Actually, no, we'll be prepping to come back from Ireland. Anyways, needless to say, I'm very busy and I have only myself to blame. Maybe my sister a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. It's fine. I'm excited. It's going to be pretty good. So, all right. So with that said, nope, that's not the button I wanted to push. With that said, let's get into it because I need to get through 2 chapters of this, and I have all sorts of other recordings to do. Anyways, so you know what? I'm going to do this too. Yeah, I know, a little bit of housekeeping. If I was a professional show, I'd have this all set up ahead of time, but I didn't. I am going to put this out there. There's going to be a link in the chat, pinned to the top. For my second channel, I just have fun with it. Reading various, Wikipedia articles. I could use some extra subs over there. So if you want to see something like that, go check it out. All right. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about achievements and running the game. So obviously stuff that I absolutely need help with. And so let's get into this and let's see what we can figure out. Obviously for any kind of a role-playing game, achievements, you got to have a way to reward players, not just with giant piles of gold. They want new gear, they want prestige. In this particular game, they're going to want some extra skills, they're going to want some extra skill points, they're going to want to rank up that specialty. So obviously achievements are how you're going to do that. At least I think it's under achievements. Anyways, we're going to find out. I haven't read the book yet, that's why we're doing this. And then obviously for running the game, I need all the help I can get. Anyhow, let's see here. Give me one more second. All right, there we go. I think I am I think I'm finally to the point where I don't have any more distractions or things that I'm thinking I should probably be doing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Let's go. All right. Achievements. Oh, I need to stop. All right. Again, I'm going to say it. I like the art in this book. It's not the super polished art that we usually get today, but it just has a great 90s level charm to it, where like, you had these artists in the gaming industry that were good, that had talent, but they hadn't gotten to the point where anyone wanting to get art for a game couldn't afford it because they were all priced out. So anyways, just really like kind of like the perfect time frame on that. All right. One of your most important roles is to supervise the development of heroes. As players become attached to the characters they create, they derive enjoyment from watching their heroes grow and change with successful adventures. As Game Master, you should take pleasure in your hero's progress. Achievement level is the best measure for how much a hero has learned. It also represents an increase in his capabilities as he acquires new skills, refines old ones, and becomes a more well-rounded character. So I will admit, they did touch on it a little bit in the player's handbook about how you level up a character. I actually really like it. Like, technically, there's no upper bound for what level your characters can be, um, and it just scales up. So it makes it a little like you end up getting like you like, just kind of as a spoiler, but you end up getting more achievement points, or skill points, I guess I should say, as you go, like for each level you go up, you get more skill points, but obviously then it becomes more costly to spend them. So it's just kind of interesting how it works. So, all right, let's look at this. Achievement points. The number of achievement points you award to heroes and the time when you award them is under your control. It's up to you to decide just how quickly the heroes will advance in your campaign. If you give out too few achievement points, heroes will advance too slowly, and some players may become bored. If you give out too many, heroes will quickly become high-level heavyweights without much of a story to justify their ascent in power. When the game is too hard or too easy, the players become dissatisfied. Here are some guidelines to what's appropriate. 1 to 3 achievement points per adventure is fair as an award for each hero in the group. If the adventure is long or especially dramatic, award 1 point per 2 or 3 game sessions. Award an individual bonus of 1 point if a player depicts his hero's motivation, moral attitude, and character traits particularly well. Award an individual bonus of 1 point if a hero did something truly spectacular, noble, self-sacrificing, or heroic. For example, if your group plays a game session once or twice a week, who gets twice a week game sessions? Seriously. And an adventure takes 4 sessions to complete, you would hand out 4 to 6 achievement points per month of continuing play. Naturally, if you role play more often, your heroes will rise more quickly. So this is actually something that I'm like, it's literally making me think of it right now. So I have 2 adventures that will probably run, and I think I'm actually going to be like, for all intents and purposes, super generous on it, because I think it, like, because we're going to start as level 1 characters. Like, that was literally one of the discussions we were having before I started the stream. That basically one of the players asked if we're going to start at as basic characters or if we're going to be a little bit more advanced. I don't want to really advance them starting out because they're introductory adventures. They're kind of designed for low level players. So, but I do think it would be I do think it would be cool to at least do one extra level, so, let them go to level 2 between adventures, just so that, number 1, we can all, like, experiment with leveling up a character and seeing what choices are available, what kind of things they wanna make. Um, because I mean, this isn't going to be a long-term campaign, but, if it works out, I'll be honest, it would be kind of fun, like, a few times a year because we're all busy. So a few times a year, plan on, "Hey, let's do another session. Let's do," and work it into some anyways, this is all my speculation, not anything that we've talked about in the group. But again, just thoughts. So anyways, so right now I am thinking about being really generous on the first after the first session, and then kind of slowing it down after that as we keep going, or if we keep going. So, all right, gaining levels. The reward for accumulating achievement points is an increase in level. When a player completes his hero's achievement track, he exchanges achievement points for an equal number of skill points. The skill points can be used to improve existing skills, purchase new skills, purchase last resort points, purchase an achievement benefit, or purchase a rank benefit, or they can be stored for later. So that's actually one thing I like. You can get the skill points and you can just sit on them if you want. They don't have to all be used at once. It's not a mandatory, oh, you go up a level, so these are all the things that happen. I mean, it is a skill-based game, so you get a lot of that flexibility, but I do like that they're not making you, spend it all at once. All right. While you are free to award achievement points at any time during an adventure or game session, you should wait until an adventure is completed before allowing a hero to gain a level. A hero learning new skills or improving old ones needs training or study time. Of course, if the hero spends a lot of time in an extended interlude of travel or some other long period of waiting, you can decide that the hero's free time is sufficient to allow advancement. In addition to learning new skills and increasing skill ranks, heroes may also be able to acquire achievement benefits. These are special bonuses, perks, or abilities keyed to the hero's achievement level. For example, a combat spec who reaches 3rd level may choose to use his skill points to improve his strength score. If the same combat spec wants to improve his intelligence score, he must wait until he has achieved 6th level. See table P29 achievement benefits on page 127 of the player's handbook. Let's take a look at this real quick. Okay, so all right, so yeah, so here's the so you've got the profession up here at the top: combat spec, diplomat, free agent, tech op, or mindwalker. And so then the cost and what level you can do this. So if you want to increase your action check bonus, you have to wait until 3rd level. If you want to get an extra action, you have to wait until 6th level. If you want to increase, your ability score, for combat spec, again, 3rd level, to increase your strength, 5th level for dexterity, 3rd for constitution. Anyways, so again, all in the chart. Let's see. Awards and penalties. Should you ever strip experience, powers, or benefits from a hero? In general, the answer is no. If you feel the need to penalize a player, the penalty of choice should be a lack of new experience or awards and not a removal of benefits that have already been awarded. Withholding awards is a powerful tool. It sends a clear message that you think the player screwed up in the adventure. Naturally, you shouldn't use this casually or spitefully. Here are some cases in which you might be justified to withhold achievement points. The hero committed violations of stated aims, morals, or traits. The hero or heroes failed to complete the adventure due to lack of motivation, internal bickering, or by insisting on sticking with a tactic that you've told the player or players will never work. The hero or heroes completed the adventure or resolved a situation by using unfair or overwhelming force, or by allowing supporting characters to take all the risks and do the job for them. The player insisted on following a course of action that ruined the adventure for everyone else. The player derailed the adventure by being rude, critical, or abusive to the other players. Obviously, this is a subjective measurement. You shouldn't further penalize a player who was victimized by bad dice rolls. Players with good ideas that don't work out shouldn't be penalized either. Just as players with bad ideas that do work out shouldn't be encouraged to repeat reprehensible actions. In addition to withholding experience, you can apply a few other awards and penalties when the circumstances warrant. Save these measures for extreme examples of good or bad role playing. So I think that list is kind of mixed because it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't penalize the players. But some of them are absolutely, penalties. The player insisted on following a course of action that ruined the adventure for everyone else. The player derailed the adventure by being rude, critical, or abusive to other players. A lot of those definitely sound like penalizing the player. Oh no, casually or spitefully. Those sound a little spiteful. That's what I was meaning. But yeah, it's I mean, at the end of the day, it's, well, you didn't complete the adventure, or I like, you know, achievement points or experience points. That's your character gaining experience. And if they don't gain the associated experience, well, why are they getting experience points for it? Duh. Anyways. All right, skill rank increase. An increase in a skill rank is a significant reward, especially at higher skill levels, so use it sparingly. For example, you might decide that a hero's computer science hacking skill should be raised from rank 3 to rank 4 because of a brilliant and innovative feat of computer use conceived by a player. The player must roleplay the situation by describing exactly what his hero is trying to do. Finally, the skill check should be a critical point in the story. Never grant an increase of more than one rank, and think carefully before you give a free rank more than once for any particular skill. At higher ranks, a skill rank increase may equal or even exceed the value of attaining a new achievement level. Just like a skill rank increase. I hate when I don't quite catch that there's more to the page. All right. New skill. Sometimes a hero tries to use a skill he doesn't know anything about and succeeds despite his ignorance. If you think the hero clearly demonstrates a knowledge of the topic or works through a tough situation that could teach him something about the skill, you can tell the player to note a new broad or specialty skill on his hero record sheet. Oh. Just like a skill rank increase, this should be a rare reward. Once or twice in the career of a hero is sufficient. Learning new skills is an important part of the normal achievement system, so don't hand out free skills unless a player impresses you. So yeah, so stuff like this, I mean, I would look at it more like, you know, so say like, they've talked about it before where like you can um like somebody who's doing something untrained can't do something or can't normally do something, but if they're being coached or walked through it by somebody who does know how to do it, there's bonuses, there's ways that you can, give them the ability to do something they normally wouldn't. So I would say something like that, where like if they manage to get an amazing result, even being in a situation where they shouldn't really be able to make it at all, maybe get it's like, okay, so maybe they're able to retain that knowledge, and it's like, cool, you got a free skill out of that. I could see that in those situations. Could be kind of fun. Again, if it fits the story, if it's one of those things that benefits, I have no issues using that. All right, rank benefit. A hero who purchases a rank benefit ahead of time becomes capable of some advanced ability involving a specialty skill, despite the fact that the hero hasn't achieved the skill rank at which this benefit would normally be attained. You can consider rewarding a hero by granting him or her a rank benefit, perhaps in a case when the hero has recently used a particular specialty skill frequently and successfully. However, it's not a good idea to hand out a rank benefit that is supposed to be earned by achieving the required rank. Such benefits are marked with an X symbol in Chapter 4 of the player's handbooks. Last resort points. Spending and purchasing last resort points can grow expensive, but you can reward deserving characters with a last resort point on occasion. One of the best times to hand out a last resort point is after an adventure in which the heroes demonstrated the best examples of role-playing and heroism and were forced to spend one or more points to succeed. Awarding perks and removing flaws. You can reward spectacular effort or unforgettable role-playing with new perks. For example, a hero who survives a long battle filled with moments of courage, sacrifice, and persistence could be given the tough as nails perk. A hero who risks his life for another out of goodwill and kindness may gain a new powerful ally. Or you can give a special reward to a character by removing a flaw. The spineless hero who displays a moment of crystallizing valor and chimerical role-playing might find his cowardice suddenly a thing of the past. These rewards should be rare in the extreme, occurring perhaps once in a hero's career. Yeah, perks and flaws, like, I would definitely say that those should be more for because there are ways that you can get rid of them or add them, but those involve spending character point or skill points, usually a lot of them. So I would definitely make the characters pay for those. Removing perks and awarding flaws. Perks and flaws can serve to punish poor play. A hero with the filthy rich perk might lose it as his accounts are frozen in response to illegal trading. A hero may lose his celebrity perk if he commits a crime that becomes public knowledge. In fact, he might reverse reputation or celebrity into infamy. Well-known people who engage in scandalous behavior become the favorite whipping boys of the press. Loss of achievement points. It's within your power to strip a hero of any or all achievement points he has earned since making his last level. Clearly, this punishment is grave and should be reserved for the worst cases of player thoughtlessness. Take the player aside and try to find out what the problem is. Maybe you can work out a change in the character concept or history to explain the hero's actions, or somehow find a way to turn this into a positive step for your campaign. Yeah, that one would be rough. I cannot see myself doing that. But I also can't see myself playing with somebody who'd be an absolute turd like that. So, story developments. One of the best ways to get players to consider the consequences of their heroes' actions is to allow the story to develop naturally from their choices. If the heroes kill hostages to get at the bad guys, someone who cared about those hostages might track down the heroes, or imagine the players' chagrin if their heroes are sued by a corporation for destroying the alien-infested mining station instead of cleaning out the creatures. On the other hand, heroes who consistently display valor, sacrifice, and thoughtfulness can find their reward not merely through some game-based award such as a skill or a perk. Instead, such heroes may gain permanent recognition and a place of honor in your campaign. Status, money, and rank. As the judge of your campaign, you have the right to change anything recorded on a hero sheet. A hero who captures a desperado may be entitled to collect a bounty. This money can be used to improve the hero's personal equipment. Patents, claims, salvage fees, research grants, stock options, and other such financial rewards might be bestowed upon a hero by a grateful supporting character. A hero who turns over an alien artifact to his government might be entitled to royalties on all devices made with technology derived from the find. Social status and military rank rise through success. Promotion, fame, and new friends among the wealthy and powerful are symbols of a rise in status. Never hurts to be recognized as the fellow who saved the station from explosive decompression. If you choose to give a status increase as an achievement award, a hero's social level shouldn't rise more than one step at a time, unless he comes into fantastic wealth or fame. Yeah, I like looking back at the social status section from yesterday. It's oh, innocent 90s when the press wielded power. The 90s? Well, that's true. It's much less. Yeah. Eh, let's stay away from that one for now. But yeah, I think that's an interesting level, an interesting thing that can be done is looking at the fame levels, whether it's authority or wealth or or fame. Absolutely those things. That could be an easy way to provide a reward that doesn't necessarily offset a lot of the game balance. So I really like that. Yes, this was written in so it would have been written in 97 and it was published in 98. So, um yeah, absolutely a product of the 90s. It Yeah, reading through some of the stuff, like especially in the player's handbook when it was talking about like computers and vehicles, stuff like that, which we'll actually see when we get into those chapters for the Game Master Guide. Very much has a feeling of the 80s. You know, just the way computer networks and stuff work. They call it the grid, their version of the Matrix. Again, like even like the Shadowrun Matrix, very much has that 90s. Oh yeah, everything's gonna be virtual reality, Tron like that kind of stuff. And that is not what it is today. So 30 years down the road. All right. Loss of money rank or status. Heroes who take irresponsible or destructive actions should suffer personal loss. Characters who belong to a particular organization might lose rank or social status if they're caught violating the organization's policies. In some cases, a hero might even be discharged from service, brought up on criminal charges, or relieved of his position. Taking the equipment away from a hero can be a story development. Of course, a hero might not go along with handing over his possessions, but that would make him a criminal with further story developments. Um, all right. So before we continue on with that, yeah, like so whether it's adding or removing levels of what do they call it? It's not prestige. Social status. Again, adding or removing those levels of social status, I think that's a fantastic way to get rewards to players that don't have to be achievement points. They don't have to be skills. It's we'll call it soft power. Um, adapting that like changing up what kind of soft power they have available. It's also something where you can penalize it a little bit more. Um, where it doesn't necessarily seem uh as spiteful as they were saying earlier. But it can also play into the story. Okay, if you're going to take a character's money away, okay, well, why? And what does that have? What impact does that have on the story? Maybe the player that owns the ship. Okay, so the ship gets impounded. All right, well, the players are supposed to go to Gorblack 7, and now they can't get there because the ship's been impounded. That can spawn into its own brand new adventure. Um, it Yeah, there's a absolute ton of things that can be done with it. So yeah, I like that. All right, advanced heroes. Running high level heroes can be a challenge for the game master and the players. Your job is to create new means and methods to test the players and keep the game interesting. Powerful, renowned heroes might take active roles in the major events of the campaign, getting involved in politics, diplomacy, and big business. If the players have applied themselves to advancing their heroes over many adventures, those heroes can be rewarded with more important roles in the campaign. On occasion, a new hero joins a group of experienced veterans. A player might have had an old hero killed off, or you might decide to expand your gaming group. You can allow these newcomer heroes to start at level 3, level 5, or even higher in order to keep the party relatively balanced. In most cases, new heroes shouldn't start at a higher level than the lowest level hero in the party. Zero issues with that. And actually, and I think even like with a science fiction campaign, like look at something like Deep Space Nine. Okay, most of it's like the senior campaign or senior the senior staff, but but they have different ranks all across the board. You have the station captain, you have the in Cisco, you have uh O'Brien, who's technically enlisted. You have uh Jadzia, who's you know a commander level. But then like her character gets eliminated and they bring in a new character that's almost a level 1, level 2 characters. So it's yeah, you can still have some of that dynamic, but I like this point of shouldn't start at a higher level than the lowest level hero in the party. I I think that's a good balance. Um, but I also think that they should bring in new characters. Not just Dave 7. All right. Retirement. The final aspect of heroic advancement and growth is the question of retirement. When is the challenge gone from a hero's career? Has he won every award and laurel that's worth winning? It's up to you to determine the upper limit of character level, both personal and social. The ceiling may be as low as level 6 or level 8 for low powered campaigns, or as high as level 20 or greater in epic space sagas. In books or movies, characters retire when their story's over. You can use retirement as a motivation to take your campaign in a new direction. When the heroes conquer their great nemesis or accomplish their final mission, you can decide that the story is over and their time in the limelight is done. It's better to retire your favorite heroes gracefully instead of serializing the story until the originality and thrill are gone. If the only thing that seems worthy of the hero's attention is one galactic catastrophe after another, it's time to think about winding up the storyline and starting with novice heroes again. Everyone enjoys defeating the first alien armada, but how about the second, the third, or the 10th? Even the most enthusiastic players will grow tired of saving the galaxy over and over and over. Beginning anew with a fresh character and localized problems is a great way to revitalize a game, giving players a chance to try out new hero concepts and see a different part of your campaign universe. Don't spring retirement on your players. Tell them you're ready to see a new batch of heroes and give them a chance to wind up the business of their heroes are involved in. If necessary, you can offer to soften the sting of retiring a hero by asking a player to come up with a relationship or connection between his old hero and his new one. Maybe a new hero is the child of an old one or a distant descendant. Perhaps an alien artifact owned by the previous hero finds its way into the hands of the novice, or a connection to grand old tales of former glory. You might have the old heroes appear in cameo roles as advisors, mentors, or movers and shakers in the campaign. Since they were last seen, the old free agent has accepted the position of intelligence chief for the sector, and the diplomat of the party is now a planetary governor. Players deserve to see their favorite characters rewarded for heroism and success. I was, because ADHD, I was thinking about how ways you could also do this without having to involve it has to be a descendant or something like that. Why not just have it be inspired by like like the kid grew up hearing of the exploits of you know Space Master Jim, and wanted to be just like him when he grew up, and so did everything he could to follow in his footsteps. And so when we meet Ensign Bob, well, he's a brand new character just out of the academy, and you know and gets sent off to you know be like Space Master Jim. I don't know. I'm just I think that could be an idea. Anyways, just me. All right. Um all right. I'm gonna skip that section. All right. Now for the meat of the issue, running the game. As game master, you have the opportunity to help the players create heroes, Think up plots and villains for the heroes to confront, and build an imaginary setting for the stories your players are going to experience. But your most important job is to run the game. You decide what happens, when, and why. You tell the players when their heroes can act and what happens when they do. In this chapter, we're going to concentrate on the basics of administering a game and presenting challenges for your heroes to overcome. All right. No pressure at this point, right, folks? The art of being a game master. Role-playing involves imagination, player interaction, and group storytelling. Players don't simply interact with rules and the limited situations they define. They create, and the biggest difference between other role-playing exercises and role-playing games, and the greatest strength of role-playing games, is the presence of a moderator called a game master in the Alternity game. Guide, referee, umpire, set designer, special effects technician, narrator, ally, opponent. The game master is all of these and more in a typical role-playing game session. So, what does a game master do? First, an admonition. The game master isn't competing against the players. Unlike in other games, role-playing games don't have winners and losers. When the game master and players come together to tell an exciting and fun group story, everybody wins. The best game sessions are remembered for years to come. If a role-playing game were a movie, the players' heroes would be the stars, the main characters of the story. The game master then is producer, director, screenwriter, set designer, and the actor portraying all of the supporting cast and major villains. With interest and vision, being a game master can be rewarding and challenging and a lot of fun. Give me 1 second. I just thought of something I need to send to the peanut gallery. All right. The game master's other hat, moderator. As moderator, the game master must interpret the rules in a fair, honest, and impartial manner. Of course, a good understanding of the rules is necessary. Set forth for your players which options and any changes you want to incorporate into play. When a situation arises that isn't covered by the rules, come up with a solution. Don't be afraid to ask your players for suggestions, but keep in mind that your decision is final. The adventure must go on, so it's your job to make a ruling and get back to the action of play. All right. Before a game session. A game session is one distinct period of game play. It might take place on a Saturday afternoon, a Tuesday evening, or over an entire weekend. Oh, the follies of youth. You may complete an entire adventure in one session, or the same adventure might continue over a number of nights of play. Like the director of a theatrical play, you have a few things to do before the lights go up on the game session. The first thing, after becoming familiar with the rules in the player's handbook and this book, is to decide what kind of science fiction setting you're going to run. Will it be a published setting, or will you emulate your favorite science fiction novel, movie, or TV show? Or will you put together a campaign world of your own imagining? Most game masters use a combination of these to construct a setting. Refer to Chapter 13, Campaign Design, for more ideas. The type of setting you build affects the kind of heroes your players create, the tone of adventures you run, and the style of play. Prepare, prepare, prepare. You need an adventure or a story idea before you gather your players. Like these. Although some game masters can improvise, most need at least a collection of notes to work from. If you're using a published adventure, you need to read through it before the game session begins, making any alterations you deem necessary so that it conforms to your setting and style of play. When writing your own adventures, you'll need to put together the adventure triggers, notes on supporting cast characters, details on locations the heroes might visit, and possibly an outline of the basic story you have in mind. Remember, no matter how complete or extensive an outline you develop, a significant portion of the story isn't in your hands. Role playing is group storytelling, and a lot of how the adventure unfolds depends on the actions and ideas of the players and their heroes. With this in mind, prepare accordingly, leaving room for the players to develop certain details through the course of play. You won't be able to predict everything that will happen, and that's part of the fun. Um, See Chapter 15 Adventure Design for an overview of how to plan an adventure and how to create the parts of an adventure that you do have control over. Um, all right. The game session. In the first game session that starts off your campaign, you need to establish a few parameters. You need to brief your players about the world your game is set in and how their heroes fit into this world. Start by having the players introduce their heroes. The best way for them to do this is in character, but don't let the players forget to describe what their heroes look like, what they're wearing, the impression of how they move, the way they carry themselves. All these things can be used to paint a visual picture of the heroes. In addition, you need to work out the connections between the heroes. Do some or all of them know each other before the first adventure, or do they meet in the opening scene? Are they part of the same team or a group of individuals brought together by circumstance? You can establish connections between the heroes before the adventure begins, or just let the connections develop naturally during the initial adventure. More information on what goes into an adventure is covered in Chapter 15. The rest of this chapter gives you advice on how to become the best game master you can be. I'm hoping for just a tolerable one. All right, create a picture. In a role play game, the action scrolls across the mind's eye of the players. Anything you do to help the players create an accurate picture of each scene makes the story more exciting and immediate. When you describe a scene, don't tell the players just how it looks. Tell them what they smell, hear, and when appropriate, what they feel and taste. Describe everything from the hero's point of view. If the heroes can't see what's behind a door, don't tell them what's back there. The descriptive words you use should show the players what their heroes can see and otherwise sense. Never tell the players what their heroes are doing. That's up to the players. Instead, show them the results of their actions. Don't give everything away, of course. Hold back enough information to get the players curious and thinking about the questions of their own. Make the heroes active, working for subtle clues or hidden secrets. By only describing the most important details, you can force the players to draw their own conclusions or to pick up the cues you want them to. For example, examine this description. All right. Let's see how well Brian can do a dramatic reading. The airlock iris opens. The emergency lighting provides only a faint illumination and leaves behind more than a few shadows and dark corners. You can see that the crew compartment is a mess. Books, data disks, and a variety of tools float about the main cabin, as well as globules of crimson liquid that drift like clouds in a calm sky. A single glove from an e-suit hangs near the ceiling. The air is stale with an indistinct, rotting smell that hovers on the edge of your senses. 3 portals lead out of this cabin. 2 are closed. The third one, to your right, is partially open, though the passage beyond is dark. Barely perceptible clang sounds from behind one of the closed doors. Dun, dun, dun. There's more than enough information provided in this description to spur the heroes to action, but nothing they couldn't spot was mentioned. The Game Master has given them things to think about and a variety of options to choose from when they make their first move. The players may come up with something unexpected, but chances are they'll decide to examine one of the clues they spot in response to a hero's actions. Don't worry about game statistics or ability scores for these types of characters. In most cases, no dice rolls will be. Wait, dang it! Did I miss something? Ah, I hate doing that. I keep screwing that up. I apologize, folks. All right. Chances are they'll decide to examine one of the clues. Role play, role play, role play. While every player controls one hero, the Game Master handles the entire supporting cast. That means everyone from the nameless extras and bit characters that fill out every campaign to the prominent allies, sidekicks, adversaries, and major opponents that the heroes interact with. Most members of the supporting cast need to be described only by a keyword or a single detail that helps you play a role. Some can even be improvised on the spot, especially when the heroes go someplace you haven't developed. A clerk in a store, a taxicab driver, a minor bureaucrat, or the man in the street might have been made up on the spot in response to a hero's actions. Don't worry about game statistics or ability scores for these types of characters. In most cases, no dice rolls will be required when interacting with them. If a dice roll is needed, look in Chapter 6 for statistics of some general types of supporting character templates, or simply make up whatever numbers you need. In the event that heroes decide to try their personality skills on these minor cast members, most start out as neutral to the heroes unless you decide otherwise. On the other hand, important members of the supporting cast require more complete backgrounds, role-playing notes, and full or partial sets of game statistics. Build these characters according to the role you think they're going to play in the story. An expert or specialist needs enough statistics to apply his knowledge for the heroes, while thugs and minor villains require enough skills and equipment to put up a fight. If these supporting characters survive to become recurring members of the cast, you can always add to their statistics and background details later. Major members of the supporting cast deserve to be treated like heroes. They need ability scores, skills, equipment, goals, personality tags, and even attitudes towards the heroes. Adversaries of this caliber need to be played logically, consistently, and with panache. Whether a supporting cast member is a walk-on, a minor character, or a star-level adversary, play each as an individual. Role play. Nothing makes a minor character shine like good role-playing of a key feature. And nothing ruins a major character like not role-playing him to the hilt. Ham it up, act it out, make each character memorable for the role he or she plays in a scene. It's important to keep a separation between you as game master and you as the person who represents the supporting cast. The characters you run shouldn't know everything you know, and you shouldn't make them into heroes that steal the stage from the players. Be fair and play each character for the specific role you envision for him or her. If the heroes have set a perfect ambush, then let the villain walk into it. If the heroes make a good bluff, let them fool the border guard. I really like how they're describing this. This is something I know that I am going to struggle with, but from everything I hear, unfortunately, the only way to get better at it is to actually do it. The improv is not my strong suit at all. But I think it does bring up a good point. Like, especially like for a major character, you know, like it says, ham it up, act it out, make each character memorable for the role he or she plays in a scene. You know, the shopkeep is not memorable. The supervillain absolutely should be memorable. Even if you're not planning on the characters you know, eliminating him as it were, you know, it should be such that okay, if they defeat the plans of the supervillain and he escapes, well, he should be memorable enough that when he comes back, suddenly the players are like, wait a second, oh, what's happening here? You know, it should impact the players. So I like that. I like that they're describing that. All right. You know what? Let's read this sidebar. Running a game session. All right, the preparations are made. You know the basics of your plot. You have notes on key scenes and the supporting cast. Now the epic begins. Your job starts with the adventure trigger, the opening scene that sets the mood and tone of the adventure to come, and gets the action moving. After that, the players should be able to use the momentum of the trigger scene to let the story unfold through the actions of their heroes. You need to listen to what the heroes are doing, decide when to use the rules to control activity, and when to let role-playing accomplish things, and decide when to spring new scenes on the players that will spur more activity. Consider the way a pinball machine works. The machine has all kinds of challenges, encounters, and combat scenes laid out in interesting combinations. You pull the adventure trigger and set the pinball or the story in motion. As it spins through the course of the adventure, the hero is directed in any number of fun and interesting ways. At times, however, the pinball might need a boost to get to the next level. That's when you tap the pinball in a new direction, a new scene to get it rolling. The trick for the game master is to keep that pinball always in motion, keep the action fast and furious, and keep the story moving. Uh, so you have to trigger your players to get things started. Yes, Robert Gray, that's exactly right. Oh, actually, you know what? I really like this example of the pinball machine. I know I'm going to struggle with it, but I really, really do like the description because, so the ball is the story. That's where the game is going. Um, and in reality, it's bouncing off the players. It's bouncing off the situations that are it's bouncing off the situations that are presented to the players. It's most of it should be the ball just kind of reacting to what's happening. And occasionally you gotta hit that flipper to get the ball going again. Absolutely the ball is going to, reach the bottom and you're going to miss sometimes and it's going to derail things. That's fine. That's why you get to launch the ball again. So maybe you need to stop. Maybe you need to, end the session for the night. Hey, you know what? I'm not quite ready to do this. I wasn't ready for you guys to get to the villain's lair. I thought we were going to have, more exploration at the mining colony. So that's what I'd prepared for. So maybe sometimes you have, like, if you're not ready to just start playing on the fly, yeah, take a break, come back for the next session and launch the ball again. When you've had a little bit of time to prepare. I really, really like this example. I have a sinking feeling I'm going to be bad at it, but I really like the example. All right. Action versus style. Every game master has his or her own style. Some people play the game by the book, relying on the rules and guidelines of the system to figure out what happens next. Um, Others don't open any books during the whole session of play, figuring that it's not worth interrupting the story to find out the wording of the rules. You'll have to learn from experience which style works best for you. Most game masters interact with the players in second person voice while narrating the details of a scene, referring to the hero and player as you. The player responds in first person voice, identifying his hero as I. Here's an example of second person and first person voice. Yes, Robert Gray, I know. Yeah, you missed the opening, Robert Gray, where I was literally saying that this, getting into this chapter, this is stuff that I need. I am bad at this. Actually, I think it was it was today. Uh no, it was yesterday. Where when I've tried to run as a game master before in the past, I am absolutely the railroader and I need to get off the rails. So I firmly expect the pinball to, to to I don't I know that there's got to be an actual term for this. Um but I don't remember what it is. Anyways, where the ball escapes. All right. Let's look at their example of second and first person. All right, Game Master. You see a long corridor with a lot of heavy damage. There are broken power conduits, shattered decking, scorch marks on the walls and ceilings, and debris scattered on the floor. What are you going to do? Player. I ready my mass pistol and sneak down the hallway, keeping my eyes peeled. For a different flavor, the game master and the player can use third person, and the scene will seem more detached. Sometimes third person voice is useful for that reason. Game master. This is a long corridor with a lot of heavy damage. There are broken power conduits, shattered decking, scorch marks on the walls and ceiling, and debris on the floor. What's Sergeant Grimes going to do? Player. Grimes draws his mass pistol and advances down the hallway. He's looking out for trouble. There isn't a great deal of difference in game styles for narrative scenes like this one. Some players are uncomfortable with trying to speak in their character's voice. They'd rather stay a little detached from the role playing by referring to their heroes in the third person. You often have to portray a villain or a supporting character the heroes are interacting with. You can actually speak your supporting character's lines and let the players sort things out for themselves. Or you can simply sum up what the supporting character has to say. Game Master as informant. I heard that there's something going on down at the docks tonight. Garrett's expecting a shipment, and all his goons are going to be there. Or, Game Master. Your informant tells you that Garrett's expecting a shipment down on the docks tonight. A lot of his men are going to be there. Both techniques get the job done. Work with the voice you're most comfortable with. Using first person or second person voice allows for a deeper connection between player and character and brings out more drama in the moment. But if you're uncomfortable with the theatrics of role playing, just sum up the information and let the players get to the part of the game that matters for you and them: combat, challenges, and puzzle solving. So, all right, approaching this from the I'm bad at this and I don't have a whole lot of experience. I like the way it sounds using the either the second or the first person information. What are you going to do? What is but I don't like the third person. I do think that detaches everything. Where and I think it can result in a little less investment from the player because they're instead of seeing from their character's eyes, they're seeing from, like the character's shoulder. And I don't know. I think you should be a little bit more attached to your character. Again, that's me. That's my rough opinion at the moment. But I think I would prefer, as a game master, what are you going to do? This is what you see. This is what is happening out there. And the player's responding with this. Oh, sorry. I thought I'd muted the microphone. Okay, apologies. Anyways, yeah, well, we're gonna find out in a couple of weeks what Brian's gonna do. All right. Set the right mood. Every setting has a specific mood depending on what genre of science fiction it seeks to emulate. Don't know where all that came from. Establishing that mood can help the players maintain their characterizations and visualize the scenes described to them. Some adventures can change the tone and mood of the setting for a brief time. Think of your favorite television dramas that sometimes use comedy to create a change of pace. But in general, you should keep the mood constant so the players stay immersed in the story. The way you describe scenes, play, supporting cast members, and make information available to the players reinforces the mood of your setting. If your campaign is an epic space opera, then your descriptions should be larger than life. Your supporting characters, good or evil, and your presentation straightforward. If your campaign instead tells a dark and gritty tale of the near future, then your descriptions need to convey that attitude with an oppressive air that infects the heroes. Your supporting cast members need to be hard, tough, and fatalistic, and the information you present should be full of twists and turns to foster a mood of isolation and unease. Moderating the story. You're the moderator, and your word is law. You decide which optional rules are in play, and you settle any questions concerning the reality of your setting. Of course, you need to be fair and impartial. Otherwise, your players could wind up angry and frustrated. Reasonable players won't mind if you make rulings that don't favor their heroes, as long as you act consistently and in an objective manner. Um, Apply the same standards to the supporting cast. We are going to read the sidebar here in a second. Remember, you're in control of the campaign and the game. Provide a challenge so that a good story can be told, but don't view yourself as the player's opponent. And give the players a break every now and then. It's no fun for a player to have a favorite hero killed, especially in a manner that he had no control over. If a hero is taking unusual risks or acting in a manner that goes against self-preservation, then serious harm should follow. A hero who dices with death on a regular basis should meet the fate that's coming to him. Relax. It's a game. There aren't any tests, and no one will hold it against you if you make a mistake or two along the way. Learn the rules in stages, adding mechanics as you and your players need them. Be entertaining and allow the players to entertain you. Ham it up, play it straight, go for the dramatic. Whatever's appropriate for the scene, the setting, and the story you've set out to tell. You and the players have come together to tell a group story using the language and conventions of a role-playing game. Use the rules as you see fit, but use them to help you tell the story, not to hinder the way the story unfolds. All right. Yeah, this is all beating it over the head of, or beating me over the head, but I think I need the reminders. Anyways, we're gonna find out. Hold on. Do we have? Oh, splitting the party. I'm not worried about splitting the party. All right. Keep things moving. Game Master should feel free to use any of the following methods for keeping the action going, the story flowing, and the game fun. Make it up. Improvisation is one of the most important skills a Game Master can learn. No matter how carefully you plan or how completely you outline, the heroes will wander from your schedule. They'll go someplace you hadn't even considered, to talk to someone you hadn't even thought of. What happens next? That depends on what you make up. Begin by describing a few details about the new location and who's there. Use the reactions of the players to spur more ideas. What's behind your well-decorated and well-planned sets might not be as finished and complete as what you had set up, but that's okay. Go with the flow until you can get the heroes back to a scene you've prepared. You may have to make slight adjustments, but chances are you can use what you've planned in some fashion, no matter how far afield the heroes wander. All right, so I just had a thought. Which I'll address my thought here in just a second. Glenn asks, what sci-fi genre is your color star verb adventure? Basic Star Wars space opera. Yes, these are technical. So Star Drive, that's their space opera setting for Alternity. And again, I'm running it because they're intro adventures. And I like space opera-y type stuff. So all right. So I just had a thought, and I don't know, I might start arguments or set the chat on fire, whatever. I don't care. I had this thought. All right. So one of the friends in the circle that I run around in, Mr. Max Boivon, which I probably messed that up. Mr. Max, I'm sorry. I don't speak French. He is and was one of the early proponents of 4D role-playing game, or 4D role-playing. Which, and I'm gonna ruin it, and that's fine. It's good enough for this example. Essentially is giving players a little bit more power to describe what's in the scene, what's happening. Essentially, essentially it from my limited understanding, it sounds more like a yes and kind of a proposition. If the player says, "Oh, well, I'm in a room and I'm going to go pick up the newspaper." Well, the game master hadn't prepared to have a newspaper in the corner. Well, in this case, well, it's a yes and. Okay, yeah, okay, fine. You find an old dusty newspaper. And in this particular situation, I think that is something that, like in this make it up example of keeping things moving, I think that kind of style could be important. And what it made me think of, um, right here, no matter how carefully you plan or how completely you outline, the heroes will wander from your schedule. They'll go someplace you hadn't even considered to talk to someone you hadn't even thought of. So one of your players says, "Okay, I'm going to go talk to my contact." Okay, you hadn't prepared for the contact. You and the player hadn't talked about anything. So I think this could actually be an example of or a case where, kind of let the player guide the scene a little bit. Um, you know, um, and and so like, okay, so he's gonna go talk to his contact. Okay, so who is this? Oh, well, it's my it's my old instructor from my academy days. Okay, great. You now have something that you can build off of. So, like, okay, so he was your instructor. So, was he in the military? Was he just an instructor? Oh, no, he was in the military. He's a former admiral. Okay, kind of let the player build off of that and kind of set those things up. But then, as the game master, throw a twist on it. Okay, so he goes, and he's like, okay, well, let's go to the space academy and find the old instructor. Okay, so you're expecting to go to the stately university hall and find this academy instructor, and it turns out actually he's gone. He hasn't been here for a few years. He retired or he got sacked or uh whatever it is. And so then, okay, that you can use that to then, play off what the character or what the players are giving you and throw a little bit of a twist into it. Okay, so he's got this contact. Um he thought he was going to be this big professor instructor. Nope, turns out he's no longer there. He's been cashiered. You know, he had an affair with 27 students. Big scandal. We were off in the verge, and so didn't know it all happened. Um Zach caught on fire. That's a little extreme there, Robert Gray. Anyways, so um I think that is one of those things where, like, if the players want to do something that you hadn't planned for, make them feed into it. Make them give you more information. What is it they're trying to do? Who are they trying to talk to? Why are they trying to talk to them? And I think you can then, take that and throw a bit of a twist to it. All right. So that's the improvise. Then we've got, okay, make it up. And then we've got wing it. What's the difference? We can get the same thing. All right. When the adventure starts to take off, nobody wants to break out of the role playing by stopping to check the rules. Oh, okay. Winging it is in regards to rules. Got it. There we go. That's the best time to simply wing it. Roll some dice and move on. For example, if a hero wants to see if an enemy's weapon has any ammo left, have the hero make a personality feat check to see how lucky he is. If the heroes ask if a specific item can be found in the room, they're searching, but not an item connected to the main plot of the adventure. Make a guess at the odds of the item being there and roll a die. Oh, hey, look, 4D role playing came back. All right. Ignore the rules. When you decide that a specific rule should be bent or ignored for the sake of the story, that's the way it is. Sometimes you'll use dice to settle a question. Other times you'll let role playing and the needs of the story dictate how events unfold. All right. Let's see. Okay. Let's go back and actually, we're going to come back to that one. We're going to do that at the end of we're going to do that at the end of the chapter, I think. I look for a nuke in this dumpster. I mean, if you're outside the military weapons depot, it's a non-zero chance. All right. All right. Ending a session. Sometimes a game session will stop in the middle of an adventure. In such a case, bring it to a close with your players wanting more, on a cliffhanger. Will the heroes make it this time? Will the villain get away? Tune in next time. After the session in which the adventure comes to a conclusion, talk to your players. Find out what they liked and why. Ask them where they think the campaign is headed. They might give you an idea or two that you can incorporate into the next adventure you design. This is also a good time to ask the players about what their characters may be planning. Their answers will help you develop future sessions as well as respond to your players' goals. Keeping records. Okay, this I know is going to be a me problem. Okay. Being a game master means being in possession of and in control of a large body of information. Keeping this information organized and up to date is critically important to running action-filled game sessions. Your players aren't going to want to wait while you rummage through a stack of paper to find the map of the spaceport their heroes have just entered. In addition to maintaining notes on the supporting cast and specific locations in your campaign setting, you need to keep track of events and actions that occur and could come into play again in future sessions. This sort of record keeping is especially important for mysteries that slowly unravel and for recurring plots and characters. It's also a good idea for you to keep an up-to-date copy of each player's hero sheet. Having ready access to the hero's skill scores, for instance, makes it possible for you to roll secret skill checks without having to tip your hand by asking a player what his hero's awareness intuition score is. Campaign calendar. Many game masters enjoy developing a fictional calendar and a timeline for their setting. By putting the heroes into a setting that has a history, you may realize opportunities for adventure. The warlike empire was defeated 7 years ago. Maybe they're preparing a retaliatory strike. The comet will strike the planet's surface in 3 months. The heroes better invent a device to deflect the comet soon. Creating special dates and anniversaries for your campaign helps to foster a sense of realism. Why mark holidays? If you can tell your players that they've landed on Laxa 4 on Liberation Day, your players will naturally fill in the surroundings with their own expectations of what it would be like. Advance the calendar as you see fit. If the heroes have to wait 3 weeks for the next drive ship to come by, then those 3 weeks pass. Just tell the players it's 3 weeks later and mark the new date. Events that commonly advance a campaign settings calendar include traveling for longer than a day, periods of research, analysis, preparation, or training on the hero's part, incarceration or legal troubles, and special story events or character developments. If they complain, keep a taser on the game table. Little difficult because the game I'm going to be running is going to be online. But I like the direction you're going, Robert Gray. Let's see here. Okay, you know what? Let's go back and read this. All right, tools of the trade. Here are some methods for making your game sessions better. Accept feedback and ideas. Your players are a great resource for adventure ideas, especially when they tell you what they'd like to do. Also, ask them to tell you what they liked best about the last adventure. This is a great way to gauge what worked, what didn't, and what types of adventures your players are interested in. Okay, this right here, this alone is part of the reason I wanted to come back to this sidebar. The like even just with like my YouTube channel, I'm constantly asking for feedback. I want people to tell me, hey, this works, this doesn't work. And usually people are like, man, it's fine. Especially if somebody is asking you directly for feedback, give them something. It doesn't have to be the greatest review ever. Just give them something. Hey, I don't like the lighting. It washes out your face. Oh, okay, cool. That's one simple thing I can start working on. Or, you know what? Your background. I'd like to see more of your background. Okay, that's something that I can work on. And I'm just using YouTube as an example. But, like, in the game of Heroic that I was playing with Bear a couple of months ago, um, that was actually one of the things where, like, so he had pre-made all the characters, and he made them based on us as his friends. And, and he made a character for me that essentially was, was a brawler type, but he gave him a leadership skill. And it's like, oh, well, if you use your leadership, you can do blah blah blah. And my problem is I didn't know how to work with it. I don't see myself as a leader. I have many self-esteem issues in real life that kind of get in the way. And so it was a real struggle. And I kind of felt like I had this attribute in my character that I couldn't really work with. Um, and so he actually went back. Robert Gray, I appreciate the feedback, but no. Anyway, so he actually went back and changed up the character a little bit for me. Where instead of a leadership role, now the character is more inspiring. Because I was doing stuff where it's like, hey, I'm gonna use my super punch on this villain's face, and so he actually changed it up where if I do inspiring things like that, then it actually gave bonuses to all of the other players. So absolutely, don't be afraid to give feedback, like don't do stuff like, "Oh, well, I think my guy needs the BFG 9000 gun as opposed to this 9 millimeter mass driver." You know, come on, that's not feedback. Um, but especially if they're trying, if there's something that you think, "Hey, twist this a little bit, and I think it'll be a better game for everyone," absolutely needs to be done. Um, Especially if either your players or your game master are asking for it, and it can go both ways. If your players are asking for feedback, "Hey, am I doing this right? Am I making this fun?" Give them stuff that you think will help. Don't tell them that they suck. That's not feedback. But, "Oh, I like what you're doing here, but, like, I sh for I'll go back to another game I was playing with Bear. Most of my games have been with Bear. Playing Star Trek, and I was the engineer. And, every single game session, I was trying to I was trying to find different ways to work in some techno babble. You know, Maybe the game master just wants to hey, can you just spend less of your time trying to come up with techno babble? Again, that's good feedback for a player. It's something simple where, hey, I like that you're doing it, but maybe tone it down a little bit. There are ways to give criticism. Or as Glenn says, I like what you're doing here, but you suck. I get that one a lot. All right, hints. Know your heroes and the skills they possess. In this way, you can use their skills to drop hints, plant false clues, or otherwise direct the course of adventures. Watch for skills like awareness, investigate, and precognition, as these allow you to pass along information. Secrets. Nothing gets the blood pumping like a good secret. Players will always wonder what you know and that they will always wonder what you know that they don't, and you can use this uncertainty to your advantage. Roll dice out of sight to determine the results of certain supporting cast members' action, and even to see how a hero fares every once in a while, especially when you don't want a player to know the exact result of an action. Pass notes to players when their heroes do something the rest of the group can't see, or even take players out of the room to pass along secret information. Sometimes you might want to do these things just to make the players think you have a secret, just to keep the sense of mystery strong. Eyeballing. Sometimes when the action is racing toward a fiery conclusion, you don't want to slow down and add up all the possible modifiers in a scene. This is a good time to simply use the situation step scale on page 48 of the player's handbook. Decided if an action is formidable, +4 penalty, or very easy, -2 bonus. Allow players to adjust for their hero's skills and get on with the dice rolling. I like all of that. Do more gooder. Why are you the way that you are? Yes. I agree with all of this. All right. Um okay, yeah, we covered all of that. All right. Uh real quick, I just want to see how many pages do we have left? Wow. All right. Nope, too far. All right, so 6 pages left today. All right, scene structure. A scene can be anything from a tense negotiation in a conference room to a battle of dreadnoughts hurling energy at each other. While these examples might not seem to have much in common, all scenes have the same basic components. There's an opening in which the heroes see what's happening, an opportunity for action in which the heroes can affect the adventure, and a closing which ends the scene. Opening a scene. A scene can begin in any way you can imagine, but at a minimum, you need to tell the players where their heroes are, what they're doing, and what their surroundings are. Here's an example of an opening. You kick open the door and see what appears to be a lab. In the room are long tables cluttered with scientific apparatus, a big computer console on the far wall, and a weird tank with something floating in a murky solution. A pair of guards are standing watch, and now they're whirling to face you and drawing guns. The next thing the game master will say is, what do you do? Nothing has forced the heroes to choose one strategy over another. They can try to talk to the guards, retreat out of the room, or blast away. Action. Action is the meat of the scene. Heroes and supporting cast members may interact with one another in any number of ways, in cooperation, opposition, or competition. The rules in the player's handbook and in this book for resolving actions cover most situations, but you make the game your own by improvising, expanding the action, and to meet your needs. Uh, Once the scene has begun, anything goes. You've prepared for what the heroes are likely to do, but expect to be surprised by your players' imaginative responses to situations. Uh, Closing a scene. Sooner or later, every scene ends. The adventure moves on. Avoid scenes that run on for more than 10 rounds of combat, require dozens of dice rolls, or embroil the heroes in conversations that never end. If you find that a scene is dragging on, don't be afraid to wrap things up. Before you end a scene, give the players a chance to pursue their objective in the scene and witness the results success, failure, or tie. The players need to know if they've got a lead to work with, if they can go on to the next step of the adventure, or if they're going to have to retrace their steps and try again. The interlude. Stringing together scenes requires attention and imagination on your part. Think of an adventure as an action movie. Not every moment of the hero's existence is on film. There are sequences in which the heroes review their options, make preparations, travel, or wait for the right time to strike. These scenes that aren't scenes are called interludes. Some groups derive satisfaction from the role playing interaction between heroes, and interludes between scenes are excellent times for players to compare what they've observed and devise plans for completing the adventure. You might spend much of your time involved in these off-screen sequences while representing the supporting cast. A few examples of interludes. A period of travel during which the heroes spend most of the time getting from one point to another. A long challenge, such as an analysis of evidence, a scientific experiment, or a research project. A rest period in the middle of an adventure. A period of training, resupplying, or recovery away from the immediate threat. Interludes allow you to control the flow of time in the game. If it's important to the adventure for a couple of weeks to go by before the heroes get their next lead, use an interlude to account for the hero's time and attention while you're setting the stage for the next scene of the adventure. If the heroes are busy for 3 months, rigging the experimental singularity probe, call it an interlude and skip over the intervening time. During short interludes, don't worry about what every hero is doing. Anyone can maintain equipment, read, or socialize in the local cafe. Try to ensure that every hero has something to do during a long interlude, though. Players get bored when they think their heroes are sitting around doing nothing. So yeah, so that's kind of simple, like okay, you guys are going to be taking 30 days off. You've got leave. You're going to go uh you're gonna you're all separating for the next 30 days. What is your character going to do? How are you going to spend the time? um Give them some sort of buy-in. Also gives you a way to build off of something. Glenn says, I never like saying, what do you do? Okay, so what do you say instead? I mean, I literally can't think of a different way to put that. What would you like your action to be? I don't think that has the same effect, Glenn. I mean, I trust you. Like, I don't know how else you'd address it. But that's just me. All right. Challenges. A challenge scene is one in which a hero tests his skills or abilities in a contest. A cliff to be climbed, a bomb to be defused, or just about anything that doesn't involve combat or interaction. Presented here are guidelines for creating and running physical and mental challenges. Presented here are guidelines for creating or running physical and mental challenges. Often your judgment is the deciding factor in determining how long a challenge takes, how difficult it is, and what the results are. Each challenge you place in front of the heroes has at least one challenge path, the route by which a hero can overcome the challenges by using his skills or abilities. A challenge path is defined by its complexity, its time frame, and its risk. So complexity, number of successes, time frame, how often you can make skill checks, and what happens if you fail. Okay. Most challenges fall into one of 5 general categories: reasoning, endurance, hazards and traps, obstacles, and technical challenges. All right, real quick to address this. Just rephrasing it helps. Like, how does character react? I see, I'm gonna argue with you, Glenn, because I don't see how that's any different. Like for that, I actually like going back a little bit, I actually don't like that one because it shifts to that third person view. It shifts to the player being on the character's shoulder as opposed to being behind the character's eyes. Okay. Um I mean, it's not a bad way to phrase it. I just again, I think it forces a little bit of that disconnect. That could be like a whole thought discussion on its own. All right. I know he's like 30 seconds behind, so he'll comment again while I'm reading, but let's keep going. All right, challenge paths. Most challenges just slap the player and shout do something. That's always an approach. All right, most challenges can be approached in more than one way. Heroes trying to defuse a bomb might disarm it, hack into its electronic brain, or jury rig a robot to carry the bomb away. When you're preparing a challenge, take a moment to think of the likely responses and prepare a challenge path for each. Some approaches may be more appropriate than others. Reflect this fact by assigning penalties or bonuses to certain courses of action. Rigging a robot in only a few minutes might be difficult, possibly a +2 or +3 penalty. On the other hand, the bomb might be easy to disarm, giving a -2 bonus, or it could be booby trapped by a demolitions expert, giving a +4 or +5 penalty to disarm attempts. Complexity. The complexity of a challenge is described by the number of successes a hero must obtain in order to complete the job. A simple challenge, attempting to jump a chasm, requires only a single skill check. Trying to find the cure for an unknown illness might require dozens of successes. Use the complex skill check mechanic for extended challenges. Refer to Chapter 4 Skills for more information on complex skill checks. Time frame. Time frame defines how often skill checks can be made to accumulate successes. During a slow-moving challenge, for example, conducting painstaking scientific research, a character might be allowed to make only one check per week. In comparison, a hero trying to jump a fence either succeeds or fails in a single phase of the action round. When a hero is engaged in a long challenge, work may not be continuous. For example, a prisoner digging his way out of his cell might work for just a couple of hours each night, but he's making progress. In this type of situation, a hero might be able to engage in several challenges at the same time. See table G27 for guidelines in determining the interval between individual parts of a complex skill check. For example, you might decide that a hero modifying a computer program needs 12 to 48 hours to overcome that challenge. If you've decided that it takes 6 successes to finish the job, the hero makes a skill check every 6 hours until he gets 6 successes. Okay. All right. Back to me and Glenn arguing. What do you do is just a really open-ended and rote prompt. It establishes a rhythm that makes the scene ordinary and predictable. All right, I can see that. You know what? I'm going to put that to the test, Glenn. Usually you're saying, what do you do during combat initiative to a player? And so I like to restate the action that just happened. All right. Okay. Like I said, Glenn, I'm going to try and do that. The guard just dove behind a wall when Dave shot at them. You're next, Steve. Oh, man. Okay. All right. I like that. I like that better. The way that you worded it at first, how does character react? Like I said, sounds exactly the same as what do you do? But I really like this one where the guard just did this. You're next. Oh, okay. All right. I'm gonna I'm going to copy that. How is Notepad not responding? That's very odd. I'm probably overutilizing my system resources. I have way too many tabs open. Huh. Oh, we can shut that down. Sorry, folks. This is, of course, Chrome's eating a bunch of resources. Apparently, the drive-through RPG app eats up a bunch of CPU. Interesting. I usually just leave that sucker open. All right. Sorry, folks. I realize that this is super exciting, but when I'm trying to copy down some notes and that doesn't load, that was a bit odd. All right. There we go. I've got that written down. Okay. Let's get back to this. I'm absolutely going to try that, Glenn. I see where you're going with it, and I like it. So I'm gonna try that in this upcoming game. All right. Risk. The danger caused by failure during a challenge depends on the nature of the challenge. Someone who fails to make it over a chasm with a running leap faces the prospect of a long and so we got a table about timeframes. Long and unpleasant fall. While a hero who botches the job of defusing a bomb could cause an explosion. Many challenges can inflict damage, and others may imperil a hero in other ways. The loss of possessions, the onset of a disease, or a complication in the story that results from his failure to complete the challenge. Reasoning challenges. When a hero must use wits or training to arrive at a conclusion, he faces a reasoning challenge. On occasion, a hero has knowledge that his or her player doesn't possess. For example, a starship commander knows more about astrogation and starship engineering in the context of the adventure than any player. The fact check. A reasoning challenge can be played as a fact check. Think of this as a roll to see if the heroes happen to recall a portion of their specialized knowledge that applies to the situation. For example, if you tell the players that their heroes have encountered a spatial anomaly, you might allow each character to attempt a reasoning challenge using physical science, astronomy, to gain a glimpse into what they're facing. Challenge path, any skill, complexity, simple, time frame, instantaneous. Quick judgment. The second common use of a reasoning challenge involves making a snap judgment about a situation or a transaction. In this type of challenge, a hero examines the evidence and information he can gather with his wits and senses, looking for things that don't fit. A detective making a cursory examination of a crime scene and an undercover officer evaluating a new contact are examples of heroes trying to make a quick judgment. You can decide that one success produces a basic fact and 4 successes produce insight into the problem at hand, but a hero needs 7 successes to discern a subtle clue. The more time and effort a hero spends on the challenge, the more likely it is that a secret will be found. In short, a hero can make a better judgment by sticking around to examine the scene or grilling the prospective contact. Challenge paths, skills commonly used in reasoning challenge include business, knowledge, law, any science, administration, interaction, and investigation. Complexity. Simple or obvious problems require 1 success. Subtle or concealed information requires 3 to 5 successes. Extremely subtle information might require 6 to 8 successes. Time frame, minutes. So something like this, I think what I would like, how I would run something like this, like especially where if you're needing multiple successes, like, okay, so you get to spend a certain number of actions per phases. Each phase being, I think it was 12 seconds. Or well, each round being 12 seconds, each phase being 3 seconds. So I would even say that like they can keep banking successes until they reach a failure, and then a failure meaning, okay, fine, you're not going to find anything else. Maybe do like a 3 out of 5 check. So like you get to make like Like, once you fail 3 out of the next 5 checks, then, then you can't get any more information out of a scene. Something like that, um, is kinda how I would approach it, just because, otherwise, technically, the player could just sit there and just keep, "Oh, I'm gonna spend time." No, there has to come a point where, the scene ends, the thieves come back to retrieve the loot, whatever it is. And so you need some sort of a trigger. So doing something like, okay, you um like once you've made 3 failures, or you know 3 failures over 5 checks, something like that, okay, that's when it's going to end, and then total up the number of successes and award them accordingly. All right, endurance challenges. Extended physical activity or battle against the elements may be reflected by an endurance challenge. Endurance challenges involve the loss of stun or fatigue points. Anytime a hero is faced with the threat of freezing, heat exhaustion, suffocation, drowning, or death by the forces of nature, have the player make a stamina endurance check for his character to see how long he can hold out. This is a special kind of challenge that comes into play when a hero is trying to hold up against something that can exhaust or kill him over time. The 2 basic kinds of endurance challenges are exposure challenges, which cause stun damage, and exhaustion challenges, which cause fatigue damage. More information on running these challenges can be found in Chapter 3. Overland movement. Heroes who stroll, march, or force march for hours must make stamina endurance checks to avoid suffering fatigue damage. All right. See you, Glenn. Have a great night, bud. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate all the comments, man. It was great. Hostile environments. Exposure to hostile conditions represents an endurance challenge too. Depending on the exact conditions, a hero might have to check for stun or fatigue damage over the course of hours, minutes, or rounds. Hours, minutes, rounds, or phases. See the graph system. Hazards and traps. A trap is a challenge that attacks its victim. A poison needle or a handle on a door that opens beneath a hero's feet, or a shaky ledge that gives way when a hero puts his weight on it. The challenge path for a hazard or trap usually begins with a hero making a feat check or a skill check, which measures how negatively the trap affects him. Well-made traps may offer substantial penalties to the hero's skill check, and deadly ones may inflict serious damage on ordinary or good results. After the trap activates, the hero may face additional steps in the challenge path. He may have to climb out of a pit, disarm the dart throwers, or recover what's left of his computer files before continuing. Heavy falling things. Heroes at risk of being crushed by falling stones, toppling trees, or other large objects from above should get an awareness check in order to spot the danger before it strikes. A penalty may be applied if the trap is well constructed. Once the trap is sprung, damage inflicted depends on the victim's dexterity feat check. Compare the weight and speed of the object to a normal fall and use the damage for falling as a guide. See Chapter 3. Obstacles. Some challenges just stand in the way and force the heroes to think about how to get around, over, or through them. A river that must be crossed, a cliff that must be scaled, and a cave-in that must be excavated all fall into this category. An obstacle may have a lengthy challenge path requiring a number of successes. Unlike in an endurance challenge, successes against an obstacle measure progress over time. Although an obstacle is not innately dangerous, a hero who runs into trouble along the way can be hurt. Consider a rock climber who rolls a critical failure halfway up a 100-meter cliff, or a swimmer who tires halfway across a river. Obstacles offer the most possibilities for alternate challenge paths. For example, heroes confronted by a locked door have several options open to them: picking the lock, bashing the door down, or setting a charge to blast it open. All right. Excuse me 1 second. All right. I thought I saw something. All right. Doors and security devices. A locked door, electronic vault, keypad, and similar types of controlled access can stop the heroes in their tracks. The most common skills for dealing with a challenge of this sort are manipulation, computer science, and security. Picking a lock or rewiring a keypad is a moderately complex task and may require a greater number of successes for advanced locks. A time frame of rounds or minutes is appropriate, although extremely advanced security system may take hours to crack. Walls, fences, and cliffs. The challenge path for scaling a physical barrier is usually athletics climb, although heroes might think of other ways to get around or over the obstacle. The complexity and time frame of the challenge depend on the length of the climb. When a hero fails a climb skill check, he doesn't automatically plummet to his death. Allow him a dexterity feat check to catch himself on something, although he may require assistance to get out of the predicament. All right. So first off, I actually like the way that they're laying all of this out. They're, the fact that they're giving you the challenge path of, hey, here are problems that can come up, and here are ways that your players can get around it. This is actually just a fantastic list of, if you've read the book, hey, here's a situation. Pull it open, and obviously, as you run the game, you'll get better at doing it on the fly. But if you're an idiot like me, here you go. You have something to work with. All right, technical challenges. A technical challenge involves using skills and working toward a specific goal, trying to hack into the enemy mainframe, repair a damaged star drive, synthesize an antidote, or restore another character to health. There's an astounding variety of ways in which heroes could meet a technical challenge. Refer to the guidelines for complexity and time frame presented at the beginning of this section. The description in skills, chapter 4 skills, may present some options for specific challenges. Analysis and research. Heroes digging up information by a thorough study of the facts at hand are engaged in this kind of challenge. Administration, investigative, and science skills prove the most useful during your analysis of or research challenges. You may assign a penalty to the skill checks to measure how hard it is to come up with a useful observation given the sources. The complexity reflects how many facts must be compiled in order to arrive at a conclusion. The time frame depends on the amount of source material and the hero's means of access. Let's see. And then we're going to skip the examples on those. All right, computers. Using the computers as an aid to research or investigation allows the hero to add the computer's bonus to his own skill check, which could be investigate, knowledge, or any science. But a hero using the computer's science skill to gain access to an enemy computer, craft a virus, or write a program is engaged in a specific kind of technical challenge. When a hero is hacking into an enemy system, the computer's security program governs the challenge difficulty. Usually, the hacker must first bypass or defeat the security before doing what he came to do. Refer to the rules in the player's handbook for security, complexity, and difficulty. Creating a program or repairing damage to a computer's software is more time-consuming. Quality of the program affects the hero's skill checks, and the length of the program governs the successes needed. It might only take a few minutes or hours to modify an existing program, but coding a major program should take weeks or months. Let's see. Oh, you know what? Let's look at this real quick. Is this worth the time? Sometimes players focus on insignificant characters that appear in a story and try to drain them of everything they know. This can put you in a bind because you have no idea what the clerk at the shoe store knows or doesn't know about the recent disappearances of the local crime lord. When the players get distracted by minor supporting characters and extras who don't have anything to do with the story, you'll need to find a way to get them on track. Have fun introducing the characters to an eccentric personality or likable characters, but don't be afraid to say, this guy doesn't know anything. Most players take that as a sign that the conversation isn't worth the time. Yes, sometimes you just have to be blunt. All right. Medical. Using medical skills to treat an injured character is a technical challenge. Medical treatment is covered in Chapter 3, Game Masters in Action, and Chapter 4, Skills. Repairs. A hero might try to fix anything from an engine with a thrown rod to a defective star drive. The quality of the tools and resources available modifies the challenge difficulty. It's easier to fix a bent axle in a body shop than out in the middle of nowhere. The extent of the damage is reflected by the complexity of the challenge. Correcting a minor problem may only require one success, but fixing a big problem could require 8 successes. Repair times can vary depending on the availability of spare parts, the accessibility of the damaged area, and whether or not any machining, manufacturing, or programming is necessary to get everything back online. Generally, the type of damage governs the time frame of the repairs. Repairing stun damage takes minutes or hours, but fixing mortal damage takes days or weeks. All right. Encounters. Heroes might be able to shoot their way out of trouble or invent nifty devices to circumvent their enemies. But sooner or later, they'll need to interact with the world around them. An encounter can involve speaking, dealing, or persuading. An interrogation, a business transaction, an emotional appeal, or a veiled threat. Encounters are sources of information, assistance, and entertainment for the heroes and their players. Encounters are the dialogue of an adventure. They help you deliver crucial materials, support, or knowledge to the players. Role-playing is the best chance for the players to showcase their heroes. Some challenging adventures consist of nothing but encounters as the heroes puzzle out a mystery, arrange an alliance, or make contact with a hard-to-reach person. The encounter rules presented here and in the player's handbook are tools for your use. An encounter table is provided not to deprive anyone of the pleasure of role-playing, but to give you a method of approximating the response the supporting cast when you're not sure how they react to the heroes. As always, feel free to ignore the results of any table and roleplay characters and situations as you desire. Duh. All right, encounter paths. As with a challenge, you can consider an encounter to have certain defining characteristics. The path is your plan for the encounter. Consider which skills the heroes are likely to use in dealing with this character or situation, and decide how these different tactics are likely to work. Of course, you don't really know what a hero is going to say or do before he does it, but you can make some guesses. It's reasonable to expect that a combat spec might try to intimidate a smart mouth punk, while a free agent might try to get him to open up to negotiations, and the gorgeous diplomat could flirt with the street rat and overpower him with her presence. Knowing your players and the way they like to portray their heroes is an advantage in planning an encounter. Based on what you expect the heroes to do or say to secure the supporting character's cooperation, you can set up several possible encounter paths and outcomes. A guard might just stand aside if bribed or intimidated, but if the heroes charm or deceive him, he could volunteer critical information or even accompany the party to help them along. Difficulty. In addition to providing information or cooperation, some tactics may be easier or harder to apply than others. This is reflected by the difficulty of an encounter challenge. The basic measure of encounter difficulty is the prospective target's resistance modifier, his force of will, or the level of his intelligence. Assign additional modifiers based on the situation. Preparing for an encounter by studying the target and learning how to push his buttons is a smart precaution and might provide the hero with an edge in negotiations. Resolution. A single skill check is all that's necessary to resolve most encounter challenges. Compare the target character's attitude toward the hero with the result of the hero's skill check and consult table P25 on page 96 in the player's handbook. It's important to remember that hostile characters aren't always enemies. For example, a negotiator sitting across the table from a hero might be regarded as hostile since he's trying to get the most out of a deal while paying the least amount possible. Use your judgment when role-playing supporting cast members during encounters. Apply penalties to encounter skills as you feel appropriate. In any event, you can set aside the result of any dice roll. Or not fudge your dice rolls. I don't know. Time. Most encounters take less than 10 minutes. Either the hero manages to pass the bribe, charging the object of his affection, or lie to get out of trouble, or he doesn't. Think of an encounter as one scene in a movie. Even extensive dialogue doesn't go on for much longer than 10 minutes or so. Some encounter scenes may take even less time. Bluffing or intimidating someone may be accomplished with one strongly worded statement and a steely glare. One-liners take no longer than a single phase. Deception, bluff, and interaction intimidate, are encounter skills that can be pulled off as one-liners. Brief speeches require anywhere from a round to about a minute to achieve results. Leadership Inspire and Interaction Taunt can be used for brief speeches. Simple transactions take from 1 to 5 minutes to complete. Encounters using Business, Administration, Street Smart, or Interaction Bargain fall into this category. Some important transactions and negotiations, such as corporate acquisitions, can drag on for weeks or months. Conversations last anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours. The use of culture, entertainment, and interaction, seduce or investigate, interrogate, generally takes a fair amount of time to sway a supporting character or complete the objective of the encounter challenge. It's not important to keep track of just how long an encounter takes. Keep the scene going for as long as the players want. If they're still asking questions or discussing the situation in character, there's no need to step in and end the encounter until the players and the supporting characters have nothing more to say to each other. Yeah, I know this was a topic that came up previously that let the players have some fun. I mean, there is a point where, okay, yeah, it's time to move the scenario on. But if the players are interacting, if they're having fun, if they're asking good questions, if you're enjoying the experience, don't be afraid to keep it going a little bit longer. I mean, you should know when it reaches the point of, oh, nothing's happening. All right, scene change. Time to hit the flipper on the pinball machine. Yeah, just saying. All right. Extended encounters. The average encounter is the subject of a single scene, but sometimes heroes may want to spend days or weeks working on a supporting character, especially if nothing else is happening. For example, trying to seduce someone with 10 minutes of witty conversation and sparkling personality can be tough. Unless you're James Bond. Just saying. But if the hero has several days on a cruise liner to get close to the subject of his attentions, his odds improve. Use a complex skill check as described below. First, set an opening attitude for the subject. Each day, the character can make a skill check to see how he has fared in changing the subject's attitude. An ordinary result counts as 1, good, 2, amazing, 3. 6 successes can shift the subject's attitude by 1 category. 12 or more will shift it a second category, and 24 and beyond that will shift it a third category. It's a long and hard task to bring about radical shifts in a subject's attitude. Yes, I'm skipping those examples. All right, dice and role playing. An encounter scene blurs the line between mechanics and role playing. This is all right. Anytime the players are willing to act out what their heroes say and how they try to influence the supporting characters, encourage them to do so. You don't have to include any skill checks in an encounter scene if the hero's words and actions dictate a particular response. So with this, obviously there are going to be players that are better at improv. They're better at speaking extemporaneously than other players are. So if a player can convince you with their words, yeah, you can probably let them get away with it. I would at least make sure that they still have the skill that's appropriate. But if they're able to role play it out, that's fine. But somebody who may be a little less inclined, make them try something, but they're not going to give the inspiring speech. They're not going, at least like with using actual words. And so maybe like let them kind of describe what they want to have happen, and then maybe give them a dice roll to see if they pull it off. It is one of those hard things. Like I've always thought about like when like the stories you hear about dungeon masters creating actual puzzles that the players have to solve. Well, if your players are idiots and they can't solve the puzzle, well, it's not a really good thing to put a puzzle in front of them that they can't solve in the real world. But maybe they have that character with the 18 intelligence that the puzzle would be a no-brainer. So, like let them make some sort of an attempt in the real world, but then let them make dice rolls to supplement it. So I have absolutely no issues doing stuff like that. All right. When talking doesn't work. Despite the hero's most persuasive arguments and delightful personalities, eventually they'll run across villains and supporting characters who aren't interested in what they have to say. When the heroes don't have anything that could possibly interest the subject of the encounter, or after they say or do things that the subject views as threatening or hostile, it's impossible for the heroes to change the subject's attitude. The subject has made up his or her mind about how to respond. Mild-mannered supporting characters may politely excuse themselves from the conversation. If the heroes are threatening, the subject may call for law enforcement, bouncers, or even a passerby. In a pinch, the subject may flee by whatever means are available. More aggressive characters may decide that the conversation should take a violent turn. When one side decides to attack in the middle of an encounter scene, allow the opponents an awareness intuition check to see if they anticipate the hostile reaction. Treat this as a normal surprise check and follow with action checks for the first round. All right, that is a lot of information that I am absolutely going to have to read through again. Luckily, I've got about 24 hours worth of flying coming up in the next week and a half. So, I will definitely be taking advantage of that. But there's so much good information in here. I actually really regret the fact that I haven't just taken the time to sit down and read through one of these. I've literally got 3 Dungeon Masters guides looking at me, 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition. I've got 5th edition 2024 in my son's room. And I've also got the rule cyclopedia. So that's literally just for Dungeons and Dragons. And I've never sat and just read any of these books. So I'm actually kind of annoyed with myself on this, but regardless, tons and tons of good information in there. I'm going to have to read more of these. Not coming up next. Obviously, I've got a lot of stuff to get through. I've got a lot of books to read, but we're going to work on this. This will be fun. So, anyways, any thoughts, any questions anybody wants to pose before we go? Obviously there's quite a few of you here. Just to bring it up, if you've been enjoying these streams, do make sure that you hit that like button. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. I'd absolutely love for you to come along, because I cover all sorts of tabletop content, basically whatever kind of catches my ADHD brain, but absolutely enjoy it. So I guess at this point, I think we're gonna have to end it there. I've got to go because I've got about 18 articles that I have to read for my my wikis channel, which, speaking of, there is a pinned comment in the chat. I would absolutely love it if you could go over there and hit the subscribe button. I am trying to build that channel while still working on this one. I'm not trying to avoid gaming with ADHD, but that project needs some love as well. So all right, with that said, everybody, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. This was a lot of fun. Just as a reminder, coming up Monday, Six World and I are going to be doing our second episode on Battletech Gothic before we take another week off. Next Tuesday evening, Kim and I will be back with Batman, looking at the ways, aka the kind of the feats and the special abilities for Batman and how those work. And then I'll do at least a couple of live streams for the Game Master's Guide. We've got I think it's like 8 chapters left. Some of them are very, very small, so it's not like there's a super huge amount of reading, but yeah, we'll do at least one stream for Alternity next week, and at least one the week after. But again, I will be out of the country and I won't be able to do the same kind of live stream. So I do apologize for that. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and check out for the day. Thank you so much for watching. As always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this on the replay, drop some comments. What are your Game Master tips? What are some things that I should know before I run this game of Alternity in a couple weeks? But regardless, thanks so much for watching, and we will talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.